Hello everyone, and good morning. Let's get started in our JA Trades Expo session today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're excited to share with you more. And we have a wonderful panelist here, Andrew. So let's dive right in. Just a little bit about us. We are from JA Canada, and you probably already heard of us through one of our amazing 14 teams across our network. You can see the picture on the map here. You probably have some contact with one of our teams. Just some fun facts about us. We delivered over 445,000 learning experiences over the past year. We focus on career readiness, financial literacy, and entrepreneurship. So how do you join us, or how have you joined us? We have our self-directed learning on our JA campus. So it involves bite-sized modules, a little bit longer modules, and also classroom modules. So you would have seen us in JA classrooms as well, and probably also at some hands-on experiential events, such as our World of Choices program. So this is probably why you're here joining us today. We are grateful for the support of RBC, who has made our World of Choices events, general or summit events, possible to bring together youth like yourselves and career mentors like Andrew here today with a wide variety of skill trades to help you understand, explore, and learn what they are all about. So, are you considering joining skill trades? Did you know that there is a growing demand of over 256,000 new skill trade apprentices that are needed over the next 5 years to meet demand in Canada? You may have also explored joining a skill trade via our World of Choices summits. Perhaps you were inspired by pipe welding into a hula hoop, or even a birdhouse building activity that you may have tried. So, are you ready? Let's hear from Andrew from Heating, Refrigeration, and Air Conditioning Institute of Canada today. And
Hello, everyone.
go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, I'm ready to go whenever you are.
Thank you, Andrew. I just wanted to also mention that Andrew is a creative, lifelong learner. His career experience has helped him to become a strong communicator, a strategic thinker, interested in meeting and winning over people, and a person that takes one day at a time, which I love. So thank you, Andrew, for being here.
Awesome. So, would you like me to share my screen?
Yes, that sounds good.
Okay. So hopefully everyone can see that, and let's get going. Thank you, Durga. I appreciate the introduction and the opportunity to share a little bit of knowledge about careers in HVAC-R. And if you haven't heard the term HVAC-R before, we're certainly going to define that for you here today. Certainly, if you could potentially picture yourself here. You may know a little bit about the trade now, but by the end, you should have a better idea whether indeed you can picture yourself in this career, which does provide a great income and contributes to saving the planet. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we go along. How do we save the planet in HVAC-R? So let's get clicking here. There we go. So earnings. Just give yourself a moment here to think about some of these questions, and they might seem enlightening to you. So, if we ask ourselves, what does the average person in Canada earn per year? This is across the whole country. We're looking at about $54,000, $55,000 a year. That's the average. Then if we look at what does the average trade person earn? And by the way, within Ontario alone, there are 144 registered trades in Ontario. The average is 58.5. Now, if we look at what does the average undergraduate degree holder, i.e. university grad, that's 61,000, just over 61,000. And then finally, the most interesting number here you might find is what does the average HVAC-R technician earn? And in that case, they earn 83, almost $84,000 across the country. This is a reasonably modest number. There are many provinces where experienced HVAC-R technicians are making $125,000 a year. So that's a pretty good income no matter where you live. So something to think about. Just a very brief synopsis of myself and my background. I have done many, many roles over my career. Some were just jobs to pay the rent, etc., and others were more focused. Most recently, you can see there, I was in education and training, which helped lead me to my role as the workforce development manager now with HRAI. It's not so much the path that's important here that got me into HVAC as much as any career can take you in any direction, and I think being open to whichever paths might present themselves to you is not a bad thing, particularly when you're starting a career. Being too picky could just, close some doors that open for you. So keep that in mind as we go. So defining HVAC-R, again, maybe some of you know what this stands for. If you don't, let's start with H. H is for heating, which might be fairly obvious. V is for ventilation. AC is for air conditioning. And R stands for refrigeration. A lot of people have heard of HVAC, but the R is for refrigeration. Moving ahead, if you enjoy working with your hands, if you have an aptitude for math or science, if you want a job with variety, if you're happy to work both inside and or outside, if you like problem solving, and if you have an eye for details and a respect for workplace safety, HVAC-R might be for you. And as a matter of fact, most of these aptitudes here apply to most other skilled trades. So the skilled trades in general might just be for you if you answered yes to any majority of these thoughts. So looking more closely at the heating side of the acronym, heating of residential and commercial buildings is what HVAC technicians are involved in. So anything to do with perhaps using furnaces. In many cases, in many provinces, furnaces are fueled by natural gas. Boilers, so that associates water. Many heating systems use hot water to send the hot water through the pipes into radiators, which then radiate the heat outwards from the hot water. And they're often fueled by gas or oil. Heat pumps. We'll talk a little bit more about heat pumps as we go. And electric baseboards. So these are kind of the main sources of heating that most of you might have seen at some point or another. And so the skills and knowledge that would be required in order to install and service these types of units, we're looking at plumbing skills, gas fitting, which is working with natural gas, running pipes, connecting pipes, and then of course electrical. And not just with electric baseboards, but with gas furnaces themselves, they have electrical components within them, as do heat pumps. So V is for ventilation, again, also for residential and commercial buildings. And this is the air supply return that ends up sending the forced air through the different systems that we have. Skills and knowledge there, you could be involved in designing these ventilation systems. Manual dexterity, of course, with any skilled trade is a great skill to develop. And in this case, we're also looking specifically at sheet metal forming and cutting. The air conditioning side of things, again, is at the residential and commercial level. And we have air conditioners. If you live in a home and you have air conditioning, you might have the air conditioner on the outside of your home, looks something like the one in the picture there. Just to distinguish the two, though, if you have lived somewhere or live somewhere now where you have an air conditioner that's stuck inside the window, of your home, that's a different kind of air conditioner, and that would be serviced by an appliance, a small appliance technician, not an HVAC technician. And then, as I mentioned, heat pumps. Well, why do I have heat pumps under air conditioning when I also had heat pumps under heating? Well, as a matter of fact, heat pumps, while they are called heat pumps, they also provide air conditioning. So a heat pump is actually an air conditioner with some modifications made to it to allow it to do both heating and air conditioning. And heat pumps, this is where the idea of HVAC comes in, where we're saving the planet. So many of the heating systems, for example, that I talked about, run off of natural gas or oil, heating oil. Those are carbon-based fuels. And our world in general is moving away from a carbon-based footprint, trying to reduce that footprint to improve our environmental circumstances. And heat pumps help to do that because they run off of electricity and they're actually more efficient in their use of electricity than a regular air conditioner. And so the skills and knowledge required here, again, we're looking at electrical skills, understanding how air conditioners work, and refrigerant handling, which is one of the components in an air conditioner. And then R is the last one, refrigeration, and that's mostly in commercial buildings. I know most of us have refrigerators in our homes, but again, that's a small appliance or an appliance service technician. If you have a problem with your fridge, they'd come out and do that. HVAC-R technicians are more involved from the commercial side, and that's commercial coolers, right? Restaurants, shopping centers, anywhere where food needs to be kept cool before it's transported to the grocery store, etc. And interestingly enough, ice rinks. Refrigeration technicians help to make sure the ice rinks are working. If you're like to go skating or involved in hockey, you'll have seen that. And then the skills again here are electrical, plumbing, and refrigerant handling. Now, you may have noticed a few common themes going through as we define the skills and knowledge required. Um, HVAC-R is a multi-skilled trade. So again, it involves plumbing, it involves electrical, it involves gas fitting, etc., etc. So that is why it is, as a matter of fact, one of the highest paying trades in Canada because of the multiple skills required to get involved in that you're doing. So it makes that job also quite a lot of variety. Now, if you're looking to get into this field, there are a number of opportunities that could be available to you. You could be self-employed, for example, or work for a company. HVAC-R, many of you might have seen HVAC trucks driving around when you're out and about in town. It's a very common business to get started. An individual could start a business as an HVAC technician doing heating, etc., services in homes just on their own with a truck that drive around. Many of our members at HRAI, as a matter of fact, are anywhere from 2 to 9 employees. You could work for a contractor, perhaps you work for one of these owners, or large contracting companies as well. Enbridge Gas, for example, is a large corporate heating and ventilation company. They hire many employees. There are manufacturers and there are wholesalers. In particular, I always suggest when someone graduates from HVAC school, and training. They don't have a lot of experience at that point. One of the very common places that you could look to get a job is with a wholesaler. They are more willing to take on new, lesser experienced individuals, and you get to learn a lot just by being involved with the parts and that sort of thing. As I said, you could work in a residential or a commercial environment. Most of them tend to pick one or the other, but some do both. You could upskill to engineering or system design. You could work in building automation. Large commercial buildings have technicians who just manage the balancing and the operations, pardon me, of the systems. For example, you could even become a college instructor teaching in HVAC-R. The colleges are always looking for new instructors for that sort of thing. So those are many different options that you could do. As far as education, if you are still in high school, then you might want to look to be taking grade 12 math and English and grade 11 or 12 chemistry or physics. Now, these recommendations actually come from our local Ontario Union website. So there is the opportunity to perhaps join the HVAC union or not. You don't have to, and it's not the easiest union to get into. But we've noted this here as far as courses to take because in their experience, when they train new people who come on, they have found that with this background, they're going to increase their ability to succeed during the training. Especially when you get into the refrigeration and the air conditioning side of things, the physics or chemistry comes in very handy. And now there are many post-secondary training providers in all of the provinces across Canada. And HRAI has actually created a website, hvacrcareers.ca. I will mention this again, where there is a full list of all HVAC-R training providers across Canada in all the provinces. So if you're looking to find out where you could get this training, that's a great resource to go to. Now, again, with getting the education side of things, the minimum entry into the HVAC-R industry is the obtaining of a gas license. Now, a gas license can be obtained through going to college courses, or depending on the province you're in, some provinces also require an apprenticeship process. In Ontario, however, you can achieve a gas license, and there are 3 levels of gas licenses through a community college, either a provincial community college or a private college. Many of them are out there, private colleges that do this. The next license that you would be potentially looking to acquire, and I would highly recommend it because an air conditioning and refrigeration license will qualify you to install heat pumps. And why is that important? Well, as I mentioned earlier, we are moving towards heat pumps across Canada, and there's going to be a 400% increase in demand for licensed air conditioning and refrigeration technicians to retrofit all the homes that currently exist in the country and install heat pumps into the new builds. Currently, this license in this industry is the only one qualified and licensed to install heat pumps. The air conditioning and refrigeration license is an apprenticeship that involves college courses across Canada. So, for example, if we look at a gas fitter, a pathway, this is an infographic, which is also available to look at on our hvacrcareers.ca website. You can see here I've put a red square around a G2 license, again emphasizing that the G2 license is typically the minimum you're going to want to achieve before getting hired. They start in reverse. G3 is basic, G2 is residential, if you will, and then a G1, you can see down further there, is commercial. And TSSA is the organization within Ontario that you need to write an exam for, and they issue the certifications of qualification through the TSSA, sometimes called a gas ticket. Now, employment, again, as I say, minimum entry typically is a G2 license. But with a G2 gas license, you can also work for a pool company. Pool companies will heat the pools using gas, natural gas heaters. You could work for a fireplace company. You could work for a company that installs gas appliances in restaurants, etc. And then, of course, you could work for an HVAC company. And the reason I point these out is, again, when you're new and you've just graduated from school, it doesn't matter whether it's a business degree or a hairdressing or whatever it happens to be. You haven't got a lot of experience in the eyes of an employer. You're just ready to kind of start your career and your learning path in many cases. And so, again, back to that idea of not being too picky. Know that you can potentially, with your gas license, explore employment with these other options. And also, during your training in HVAC-R, most programs include training in basic plumbing and in basic sheet metal. So these are also other options that you could expand upon and find somewhere where they're looking for those skills. Now, talk a little bit about apprenticeship. It can sometimes be a confusing path, both for employers and for those looking to become apprentices. So, the first step along the journey of becoming apprentice is you, as the individual, need to find the employer. There are some agencies out there. ApprenticeSearch.com, for example, is one of them. They are a national organization. Again, ApprenticeSearch.com, if you want to jot that down. They can help bring apprentices and employers together. But the onus basically is on you to find an employer who's willing to take you on as an apprentice. Now, typically in these situations, the employer, many of them have different sort of programs or processes that they follow. It's not uncommon for them to say, okay, we want to see you how you work. You need to work with us for at least 6 months or maybe even a year, and then we'll see about signing you on as an apprentice. Do be careful, though, that they don't say that and then with no intention of doing it, because there are some companies out there that aren't maybe necessarily as scrupulous as others. So just keep an eye open. An apprenticeship, as you may have heard, is an earn while you earn path. So, in other words, apprenticeship involves typically segments of in class, so at the college level study. It's usually about an 8-week term every time. Apprenticeships tend to have anywhere from 2 to 4 segments of 8-week in-class study. And then in between that, you're doing the on-the-job training. While you're on the job, which is the great side about apprenticeship, is that you're earning. You're getting a salary while you're on the job, while you are in your apprenticeship. An apprenticeship can take anywhere from 2 to 5 years to complete, depending on the license that you're looking to acquire and the province that you're in. In Canada, or sorry, in Ontario, a full HVAC, including a refrigeration license, could be about 3 to 5 years. Now, as I mentioned, earn while you learn. So if we were to compare, for example, someone going to university And in this case, we're highlighting a 5-year arts and humanities degree, 4 to 5 year degree. Um, every year you have student fees, right? And it's quite common to generate a student debt. And if you look at the bottom there, it says average, and this is based on averages, $28,000 of student debt. Depending on the university stream of study that you're doing and, of course, the province you live in, this could be a very modest amount. 40, 50, 60, $100,000 is not uncommon from student debt after graduating from university. And the approximate tuition there is about $40,000. Again, that could go up higher from there. But then if we look at and then so it gets again, the what does the student earnings mean? So 10,000, 11,000, it sort of kind of goes up in small increments. That again is based on an average that someone in university might be able to earn for themselves between perhaps summer employment, part-time employment. Some university programs are so demanding that you can't work during the season, so you only have the summertime to earn money. Whereas if we look at the apprenticeship model, which I mentioned, you're earning money every year while you are also learning. And again, these numbers here are quite modest. You can earn much more. But if we then look at the bottom line, you have earned maybe upwards of $300,000 over the 5 years as an apprentice, whereas now, as a university grad, you could be anywhere from 8 to however many tens of thousands of dollars in debt. So anyway, that's something to think about as well when you consider the benefits of the apprenticeship path. And then again, another pathway infographic here around the air conditioning and refrigeration and the apprenticeship side. You can see there's a little green number 1 there beside find an employer, just to re-emphasize the importance of needing to find an employer first before you start an apprenticeship. In Ontario, you and the employer would be your sponsor, need to apply through Skilled Trades Ontario, and they manage the whole apprenticeship, the sort of administrative side of the apprenticeship. The employer will report back to the Skilled Trades Ontario to indicate the specific skills that are needed to be observed. There's a booklet that you get, and it gets signed off, and all those kinds of things. So they monitor your progress. There is then a exam at the end of having completed your training and in-class requirements. And if you pass that exam, then Skilled Trades Ontario would issue you a certificate of qualification. You can see over on the right in blue are the 2 licenses from the air conditioning and refrigeration side of things that one could strive towards in Ontario. 313D is the residential license, and work hours 4,000, and that is 480 training hours. And then that's in class, pardon me. And then 313A, you can see it's a double amount of working hours and almost a double amount of in-class time as well. So unless you plan on going into the commercial side of things, you could still be making a great living at the residential side. I won't go too much into the differences otherwise, other than to say that someone, for example, who likes to work with people, who likes to interact with customers, might be a good fit for the residential HVAC/R market because typically you're going out by yourself to someone's home, you're dealing with the customer directly. If you don't like that kind of thing, but you're still interested in the field, you might want to look at the commercial side of things. So training, where do you get training? As I mentioned, our HVACRcareers.ca website lists, and you can see on the left there an example of that, all the training providers, where they are, and the programs that they offer throughout Canada. So that's pretty much it. I guess we could open up the floor for any questions.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
Our chat questions coming over chat, or are we going to hear folks, or shall I just wrap up?
Yeah, we can actually open up in the chat and also via the Q&A. So we'll leave some time for them to type in. Otherwise, I do have some questions from teachers. So
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, maybe I'll start. How about women in HVAC/R careers? Like, are they needed? Are they present?
Well, that's a great question. Uh, all provinces are taking very affirmative action steps, for example, to encourage women into all trades, not just HVAC/R. There is actually an organization called Women in HVAC. You can find them online, and they are HVAC/R women HVAC/R professionals. Um, there are now in any trade, women are believed to be solely underrepresented. I mean, there are many reasons for that. Culturally, of course, it's not something that we encourage our daughters to get involved in the trades. But any trade is welcoming. And as a matter of fact, the CSA recently published a new standard that encourages guidelines not only for women in the trades, but other equity deserving groups. So again, there is action taking place, everything from improving the types of uniforms and overalls that are available to women to encouraging them to get involved.
Love that, Andrew. Thank you. And, to that point, we also had a question from a teacher. Is it safe to work in your skill trade? What do you think?
Well, that's another interesting question because yesterday I was at a apprenticeship symposium.
Oh.
And there was a lot of conversation around barriers and misconceptions. So, one of the misconceptions or concerns about the skilled trades in general is it safe? Is the world of construction safe? Uh, so it depends on the environment you're in. Now, if you're working in residential HVAC, for example, it's fairly low risk. You're going into someone's home, into their basement, you're working on a furnace or an air conditioner outside in their backyard. So very, very low risk when it comes to that sort of thing. You are again managing a flammable material like gas when you're doing gas fitting, but you have a license, and so therefore, you're trained in the appropriate precautions when it comes to that. Risks would increase slightly if you're in the commercial side of things, because commercial HVAC also quite often sees you on the roof of buildings for the big machinery that's used, the coolers and that sort of thing. But also, working at heights training is a standard part of that type of thing. I actually used to be a working at heights trainer. And there are many precautions that can be taken that next to eliminate any risks from that side of things.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much, Andrew. We have a couple more. How relevant will your skill trade be in 5 to 10 years per se?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, it's anticipated due to the plan for the retrofitting and installing from the new build market of heat pumps, a 400% increase. This has been specifically researched, and of all building trades, next to general construction labor, refrigeration and air conditioning technicians is second as far as demand increase within the skilled trades.
Love that. Thank you. And if I was a student and I was going to look for a job in HVARC, what are the things that employers or recruiters or even colleges do you think would look out for?
Yeah, that's a so there's a decision that students need to make or second career adults need to make for that matter, when getting into this trade. This trade is a little unique in that, as I said, the need for a gas license is a requirement. Unlike, say, carpentry, you could potentially, if you have some general labor experience in construction, move into carpentry and start getting experience right away. HVAC isn't like that. Again, you typically need that gas license in most instances. And the decision that, say, both group students and second career adults need to make is, where do I go for that training? There are private training providers that offer accelerated programs. So you could get a G3 in 12 weeks, another 12 weeks for a G2. But those colleges charge upwards of $7,500 every 12 weeks for that. Someone who is a second career adult who's got, rent to pay or family to feed still, find that appealing. They can't afford a 2-year stretch to get a diploma from a community college.
Right.
Diplomas, however, are a lot less expensive. So, there are some of those things there. And some might say that a college diploma holds a bit more weight than some of these private colleges just because of the sheer additional amount of time invested.
Thank you, Andrew. And we've actually got a hand raiser, Carter. If you would like to speak, we have allowed you to talk. We've also got a question in the chat. So I'm just gonna wait for Carter to see if he has any questions before I move on to the Q&A. Okay, well, while Carter is maybe perhaps being a little shy, you can also use the Q&A function on the bottom tab. It just says Q&A. So we do have a question, Andrew. How do you get a gas license?
So a gas license is in Ontario acquired through community college or a private training provider. There are a number of private training providers. Highmark is one. Herzing is another one. And there's a couple of others down in the Niagara area as well. But if you do a Google search, or as I say, go to hvacrcareers.ca, you'll be able to look at the list of training providers. And there's most HVAC programs combine not just the knowledge needed to get a gas license, but also diploma programs, for example, include heating, understanding of furnaces, understanding of, um, pardon me, sheet metal, plumbing. A lot of the basics are included in these programs, and a gas license is just one of them.
Thank you so much, Andrew. We have another hand raiser, Eileen. You can speak if you like, or you can put it in the chat. Oh, Emma actually has a follow-up to your question, Andrew. What is a gas license?
Gas license, okay. So, in many provinces in Canada, furnaces are fueled by natural gas. Natural gas is uh, sent through an underground network of pipes into homes. Um, if you live in a rural area where they don't have those, a home might be fueled either by oil, and it's more of a diesel type of oil, or propane. Okay. So if you are working in a environment where natural gas is the main fuel, then it is a combustible fuel, and as you might imagine, of great risk to the homeowner and to the technician. You don't want to have leaks of natural gas in a home. From time to time, you'll hear on the news natural gas leaks, whether it's from a gas stove or a gas furnace. All of a sudden, the house blows up or something. We don't want that to happen, right? So, having that gas license provides you with a broad understanding of how to connect pipes, for example, in a safe manner, and really understand uh, the requirements. It's very highly regulated. There are very specific ways that you need to connect pipes and vent pipes out of homes, etc., to protect everyone involved.
I love that. Thank you so much. And I think we have a new joiner, Tia. She's asking what courses do you have to take, but I know you covered a little bit of that earlier, so maybe if you wanted to go back to that slide just to rebrief her on the courses.
Yeah, so again, with if you're still in high school, it's recommended certainly that you have grade 12 math and English, and also potentially grade 11 or 12 chemistry or physics.
Love that. And there is another question. How old do you have to be to get a gas license?
Well, typically the obtaining of a gas license is done through a community college. So most community colleges, you have to have a high school diploma to get in. So, 17, 18 years of age. Or as a mature adult, of course, you would be over 18.
Thank you. And we have a couple of questions on air conditioners. So Eileen is asking, what is an air conditioner? And we also have somebody else that's asking, why is air conditioning so important?
Okay, well, um, an air conditioner is actually, oddly enough, um, the way it works is that it doesn't produce cold air as much and then send it into the house as much as removes hot air from the home and then recycles it. So it'll draw the air currently within the home into its intake system. It goes through a series of refrigerants and pipes and that sort of thing. And there's this refrigerant in the air conditioner, and then that sends the cooled air back out into your home, which makes you think like it's generating cold air, but again, it's not. It's removing the hot air. In the same way, then, a heat pump alternatively reverses that process and takes even when it's cold outside, it takes what is seemingly warm air and it regenerates it through the refrigerant system and then creates um, expels the hot air into the house. I'm not a technician myself, so that's a very layman's explanation, I must say. As far as the importance of air conditioning, well, if you've experienced, trying to fall asleep in an apartment in a 30-degree evening that feels like 35 or 40 in Toronto, you'll understand the importance of air conditioning.
Right.
But air conditioning is everywhere, every air conditioning. Certainly in Ontario, there are provinces in Canada where air conditioning isn't as prominent. Certainly some of the Atlantic provinces aren't. BC, for example, also is another province where air conditioning is not as prominent. As a matter of fact, last year, BC experienced a odd, uncommon increase in heat temperatures. And there were a lot of seniors' homes, for example, that didn't have this air conditioning already in them because typically they weren't required. And many seniors were succumbing to this heat. So it can be everything from general comfort level to very serious ramifications for those who are more sensitive to heat, like senior citizens, as I say.
That's so true. And it underscores the importance of it and your skill trade in that sense as well. So thank you,
Mhm,
Andrew. We
mhm.
also have a question on what license do you need to work on a refrigerator?
So a refrigerator, as in a home refrigerator, is small appliances. Now, there is refrigerant in refrigerators, so you would at minimum need to have what's called an ODP certificate. That means that you have been trained on the handling of refrigerant. And actually, HRAI manages that, and we can provide the training for that online.
Love that. And we do have one
Otherwise, I
last
think you
question.
just yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, we do have one last question that perhaps we can take is have you ever caused or seen a gas leak?
Oh, well, again, I'm not a technician, so I don't work in the field. So I certainly don't hope I've caused a gas leak unless I've forgotten to turn the burner off on the gas stove at home, which sometimes my wife reminds me I do. But no, I've not had experience with that. Gas is important though to treat with respect. If you're using a gas furnace or a gas stove, for example, at home, you should always have the overhead fan turned on, even if you don't feel it's for the purposes of expelling food odors. It's also required a safety measure for cooking just when you're using gas stoves.
I love that. And just one last question is why the shift from HVAC to HVACR?
So that's interesting. Some college programs actually call it HRAC, HRAC, so heating, refrigeration, air conditioning, and then others HVAC-R. Um, I don't know why it was changed. I haven't been in the industry that long to know where the R came from or why it was added in there, but it's all connected. So the refrigeration side of things again, And the air conditioning and refrigeration are a combined license. So, and then particularly if you're getting into the commercial side of it, that's where a lot of the refrigeration piece is prominent.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And unfortunately, we have come to the end of our session. So thank you so much, Andrew, for sharing so much about the skilled trade that you're in, also your own experiences, and taking all the time possible to answer all our questions. If you would like to keep connected with Andrew, we will be sharing out his email address and perhaps his LinkedIn after this session. So do keep connected with us. And thank you so much again, Andrew. Before
Well,
you
thank
do
you.
leave, yeah, thank you. And before you do leave, we wanted to remind you to believe in yourself, invest in yourself, like Andrew has mentioned. Be kind to yourself always, and you have got this. If you do want to stay connected with JA Canada, there are two different ways through our Instagram and our LinkedIn. Just click the link, and hopefully, we'll see you at one of our other sessions going onwards until 8 p.m. Eastern. Would you like to say anything else, Andrew, before we wrap up?
Well, I'll just reiterate HVACR careers.ca. It's an excellent resource page for anyone looking to learn about what's involved in the trade and help them decide whether it might be something for them.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and we wish you all a good day and see you at our next session.
All right, take care, everyone. Bye bye.
Bye.